Today I'm in Amman, Jordan, and before this I was in Egypt for a while, and I want to tell you about things I found shocking and didn't like about Egypt. Now, don't get me wrong, there are things I did like about Egypt, and not all Egyptian people are like this, but these are the things that kind of took me by surprise and made my Egyptian experience not so great. But now that I'm in Jordan, what a night and day difference. This is a great example. First off, it's kind of empty and not so crowded. Whereas with Egypt, and we're not just talking Cairo, a lot of other parts were kind of like this. There's just hordes of people all the time. Many of them constantly hustling you and trying to sell you stuff for exorbitant prices because they know you're not from there. Now, apparently Egypt's known for this, but I kind of went there on a whim as I've been traveling the world for the last 8-9 months. So because of that, I don't have that much time to do research and plan as one might who has months to plan the 2-week vacation. So I went in there with not as much research and kind of going on faith off a few social media, Instagram influencers who simply hyped and posted memes or informational Instagram reels, just saying, de-emphasizing the scammers in Egypt, saying that they don't actually exist or that they're not as bad as you think and all this. So I came in with better expectations. And no one scammed me, but there's just tons of people ripping me off or really trying to. The first big one, and this is the one you really should avoid, apparently they're known for this, I didn't know, is guys with camels or horses near Giza. So, make a long story short, I actually had footage of him doing this, but he demanded I delete it. But came up to me very aggressive, put the scarf on my head and said oh, just you can pay what you want. When I asked what the price was, just come, take a photo, get on the camel. I was really hesitant. I was like, no, because I didn't want to spend the money. But I was also kind of letting him because I did like the idea of riding a camel in the desert in Egypt for the first time ever. So I let him do it. He walks me 2 minutes to a more deserted area for a better view where you can see all 9 pyramids. And he's saying all this stuff along the way. Oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from China. I don't tell him I'm from the US because, that means his prices are even higher. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. You're from China. You can be my friend. We get off the horse. He demands $100 American. Somehow he detected I was not from China. And he demands $100 American for a 2-minute ride. And claiming he was going to be my good friend here, asking me all these logistical questions beforehand. Oh, did you come alone? Almost trying to sift out how much of a sucker I am. And all of a sudden things get very aggressive. He changes his tune after I decide to start recording, and he drops it to $50 American and then 20 euro. I try and pull out my wallet and give him 400 Egyptian, which is fair going rate. Last second I decided to check ChatGPT for fair going rate. I should have done this much earlier, to be honest. That was my fault. And he was still pushing it. And I guess because of the camera, he decided, okay, this is what you're gonna get. And he lowers it, and then I insist. Finally he's like, okay, I'll take the 400 Egyptian. So that was a pretty disturbing experience to my trip there. But also that's not to say all Egyptians are like this. This was just probably the worst of the bunch in the pyramid area. And even when I went back to my Airbnb host, he was like, oh, I should have told you about this guy. He is these are the worst type of people. You got to avoid them. Guys with camels or guys with horses. So that was kind of jarring. It left a bad taste to my trip. But already, now that I'm in Jordan, I feel better. Like, at least this is my first day, so we'll have to find out over time. But like, from everything people have been telling me, my contacts and stuff, Jordan is more chill. They're not gonna hassle you like that. But that was a big thing, and it wasn't just in Giza. I would say like anywhere there's like a lot of tourist sites, like the Luxor area, the Aswan area, where most people go on tours. There's going to be a lot of these people who are just constantly hassling you and following you endlessly for a tour, or just trying to sell you something, a taxi or something, and they will follow you for a while. Now, about halfway through my trip, I just mentally decided this is gonna be a hassle, but I have to deal with it. And I would say Aswan and Luxor, they weren't as bad. I built it up so much in my head that when it finally happened, it wasn't that bad. It was like, I pictured in my mind they would follow me forever. And sometimes I had quite a while to walk because I was staying on the West Bank in a hostel in Luxor, which meant I had to walk like probably 20 minutes more and cross the river on a ferry, haggle on the ferry to get a good ferry price before I can even start the walk to the historical sites. So it's a much longer walk. But in reality, at least in Luxor, they would follow you for like, in Aswan, they would follow you for like 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then they, back off. Like they wouldn't follow you forever, but it's one of those things where you might, especially since I'm alone, if you're traveling in a group, it may be better. Apparently they're known for that. They see you kind of almost a bit like a target, but that's Egypt. That's not everywhere. I'm glad I'm done with that though. There's definitely good parts, and there were good Egyptians. So one of the things I did like was some of the Egyptians were not like this, and they charged chill prices. So like, when I went to certain restaurants, when I went to the gym, because I still worked out while I was there, or to grocery stores, they would charge local Egyptian prices for things like water or food. And it would be like 50, or not 50, like 10 or 20 Egyptian for a bottle of water. And there'd be no hassles, nothing. They'd just be really chill about it. And that's about like 30, 40 cents. So I really did appreciate that. Gym, I think the best gym I went to was in Aswan. I paid I think it was 100 Egyptian, which, do the math, it was a very fair rate for a day pass, and it was a pretty stocked gym, almost all locals there, but it was really nice. So not everyone is like that. And those were some of the hassles I found. I would say some of the other things I found to be quite, let me show you this side of the road. This might be a good different angle to look at things, just to see Jordan while I'm talking here. Another thing I would say were good and bad is, I would say the Instagram influencers who I followed, picture how they would look. They're typically like solo female blonde travelers. They typically are things I would not recommend following solely as your guide to Egypt. You would think they would because they have hundreds of thousands of followers and they have a lot of good tips, but it's a kind of curated experience. So another thing I wish I would have done differently is kind of more of a, not luxury, but mid-tier experience rather than a hostel experience. So I caught a sickness while there. It was probably a upper respiratory viral infection. So I got a cough, runny nose, the works, and that kind of affected my stay. I think the hostel thing, it was helpful because I guess in some ways it saved money. It was a social atmosphere, but I don't know. I think the whole experience, me getting sick, just kind of made it a rougher experience all around. And then the hostels are usually kind of farther away. I did spend on Airbnb, which was nicer, but still not that nice. In Aswan, my Airbnb was kind of in a run-down area, although the inside was great. Had I gone with a nice hotel, and then group tours all along the way, like a lot of people I saw did, they would, I saw a bunch of like Asian people, Chinese people coming in groups of like 30. That would have been a much more curated, nice experience the whole way through, I believe. I wouldn't have to haggle for the prices. My hostel and some of the group tours as well, they were constantly hassling you to leave nothing but a 5-star review. They wouldn't accept anything less than that. They weren't pressuring you, but they were kind of like pushing for it. And then there's things that were kind of like a bit off. Like my hostel, they arranged for some stuff. Like my first drive through Aswan, I think I overpaid. So I should have went with Viator or get your guide online. I would have got a better price. So I didn't like that. But at the end of the day, I thought about it, and like, even if I was overcharged, the overall price is still like not that much for an American. Okay, so I paid like what, $15, $10 for a tour that would have cost $5 if I haggled it properly, or I went with another guide. Okay, so I lose $10-$20. Not the biggest deal. But you kind of lose sight of that when you're traveling a lot and you're just looking at relative prices, and you're upset when you get kind of ripped off. So had I done it again, I probably would have gone with the best group tours and best rated experiences on Viator.com, and just gone with some more expensive hotels and group tours and just eaten the cost. And I started to realize that towards the end. I ended up paying for a $70 private taxi transfer from Aswan to Luxor, when I could have just taken the train and saved like $50. But I was still coming off a sickness, and I was way in the West Bank of Luxor, so it would have been much more of a hassle and much more of an energy drain. So if I were ever to go back to Egypt, which I might, because I missed some sites because of my sickness and not being acquainted, I think it would be nice to probably pay for one of those nice luxury hotels, much less hassle, and just see the pyramids from my place. That would have been nice. And then just, pay for all the group tours and buy a hotel for the rest of my experiences there.